Okay, but were you surprised to see Chris Paul and Rajon Rondo getting into that kind of a fight in Game 2?
I am not surprised at all. For you people out there who don't know, Rondo and Chris Paul have never liked each other. This dates back to maybe Rondo's rookie year or second year. They've had heated exchanges over the course of the year. I'm surprised that this is their first fight, actually, because throughout Rondo's time in the league, him and Chris Paul have never got along. And with the energy in this building, and you saw it earlier when Chris Paul got Rondo with the blocking call, there's a lot of heated exchange between those two, and it just escalated from there. But I am not surprised that this went down. This could have went down a long time ago.
Right, and here's why. You play with both. You play with CP, and the funny thing is, they're a lot more alike than they are different.
Yes, I was going there.
Okay, they both play below the rim. They both are really smart, and they both are really physical for their position. And there are a couple of times throughout the game where they actually got mixed up, and CP3 got the better of them. Right here, I remember saying, wow, CP slammed him. And Paul distinctly said, Rondo ain't gonna continue to deal with that. Eventually, he gonna want some smoke. That happened at that point. And then right here, where CP got the better of him, watch him flex the bicep. I'm strong. So Doe is now like, okay, we're gonna get back at it.
I mean, that was not a hold me back.
We're not encouraging violence at all, but that's what happened to take place, Mr. Big Shot.
First of all, there's one thing you left out that's the most important thing that they're most alike. They're super, ultra competitive. Very competitive. But I'll tell you what, this is the first time I've seen some punches landed in a long time in an NBA fight.
Yeah, Doe got a left and CP got a little.
I mean, it was good theater, but in all honesty,
I'm not surprised.
These guys, like Paul said, have never liked each other. This will be an ongoing thing.
Brandon Ingram overreacted to the entire thing, by the way. He was mad at the ref. He's walking toward the ref. James walked by. He just happened to push James, and then it escalated.
Well, it was his first career ejection for Ingram, 6th for Rajon Rondo, 2nd for Chris Paul. Kiki Vandeweghe was in the building, and he will be the one responsible for the punishments as they come down. But right now, we're going to welcome in Hall of Famer Doris Burke, who obviously had the best vantage point for everything that went down. Doris, what did you see as it led up to what we ended up seeing?
Well, listen, I think your guys just touched on it. Rondo and Paul are two hard-playing, very competitive basketball players who talk. But it wasn't anything out of the ordinary before that particular moment. And as that melee ensued, I had the great look at what Brandon Ingram did, but as the interaction between those two gentlemen occurred, it was sort of moving away from me. But I did hear Mark and Jeff, obviously, and you guys heard this as well. You know, Chris Paul was saying, Rondo spit on me. Whether or not that's actually transpired, we'll have to see if we can find some video evidence. But honestly, I did not see anything leading up to it out of the ordinary with either of those two men.
Doris, obviously, emotions are on a high. This has felt like a party since about 3 o'clock this afternoon. In the building, when this went down, what was that like?
You know what? I'll be honest with you, Michelle. At the early part of the evening, I was surprised at how subdued the building went. But as the game wore on and it got more competitive, the difference in energy in the building was significant. And obviously, people always react to, you know, that kind of altercation. And everybody's standing up around me. And it got very intense very quickly, both on the floor and with the fans around.
And I want to ask you, obviously Kiki Vandeweghe was in the building. He will be the one when the punishment does come down to give that out. What can we expect? What's next for both teams?
Well, I think Brandon Ingram is probably in a little bit of trouble, right? Because he's the instigator of the initial part of this. I think he's going to get suspended. I think they have to look at the tape and punches thrown. You guys know this. That's trouble. There will be multiple suspensions. I'll be shocked, but obviously a lot to unfold as they watch the tape of this, Michelle.
Doris, thank you so much.
You got it.
Did not see any of that coming tonight. Saw a lot of things, not bad.
Of course, basketball is a physical game, an emotional game, and older players like ourselves joke a lot about the hold me back moments, because that's what it should end up being. Once you start to throw punches, that's when you lose your discipline and you lose your respect for one another. And we saw that happen. Unfortunately, Chris Paul is going to at least miss his game here against the Clippers, and obviously Rajon Rondo is going to miss Monday's game against the Spurs.
And Brandon Ingram will have a small vacation as well. Yeah, coming into that fight. I mean, first of all, he kind of started the action, and coming in with that haymaker.
Yes.
You know, we'll
this
see
is going to hurt both teams because they both lose key contributors and key starters for one. You know, Rondo is a starter for Houston, but obviously Brandon Ingram on the other side, and Chris Paul. You know how important he is, of course, because he missed Game 7 last year. That you know the importance of him. So if they miss significant time, you know, it's not good for Houston, especially. You know, a team that battled Golden State, that was first seed. They need to play better. They need to get off to a good start. They need to show everybody that they're for real, and they're going to be a contender in the West, and this is not good for them.
So this obviously not a great look for everybody involved. I'm not condoning the violence, but we do all have to move forward as a team, as Lakers. Does anything positive come out of that? I mean, when they go in that locker room tonight and they're in there talking about it, who steps up, who says what, and do they take anything from it?
Well, of course, LeBron is the leader. He's going to step up. But to me, it's a teachable moment because for those young guys, you know, the Ingram and the guys who kind of lost their composure, if you want to be a really good team, when the going gets tough, you get tougher on the floor. You defend harder. You get your guys back going as opposed to trying to start a fight. It's a teachable moment.
Yeah,
It is.
Chauncey. Oh, go ahead, Jay.
And uniquely, LeBron's in a unique spot because, as you mentioned, he's the leader of the Lakers, but he's also really good friends with Chris Paul, and he's really good friends with Carmelo Anthony. So now when Doe comes back into the fold, and Doe's like, man, screw that guy. And LeBron's head is like, that's kind of my man. So that's going to be unique, but LeBron will figure that dynamic out because he's a great
You
leader.
gotta understand, too, think about this atmosphere. Look at the energy in the building. These guys, these young guys have never been in this type of atmosphere. So temperatures rose. You know, as it got heated down the stretch when the game was close, this is what they have to learn from. When they get in these type of atmospheres, playing with LeBron James, there are going to be a lot of big games throughout the year they're going to have. They're going to have to keep their composure. So hopefully this is something they can learn from.